This is TWiT.
Microsoft wants to restart 3 Mile Island to power AI. The site of the worst nuclear accident in American history.
Which let's put this in context. No one died. Coal power plants kill a lot more people with pollution than nuclear power plants ever will.
Yeah, I'm on the same team.
I think it is questionable whether, we don't know how to build nuclear power plants affordably unless they're going into a submarine for the Navy. Then that's fine, I guess. So the economic case for building new fission plants does not seem great. But if Microsoft is that desperate and they don't want to wait for solar and wind to come online in Pennsylvania, and they're willing to pay this, and according to the story I read about it, the Pennsylvania ratepayers and taxpayers will not pay for it, I'm okay with it. And it's also, it's not the specific reactor that had the partial meltdown. It's the one next to it.
Oh, it's the other one. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, that, I feel better
there's some
about
cleanup work.
It's 2 Mile Island, not 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
It probably, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and the wind and solar probably not coming there anytime soon. And so it's very inconsistent. I don't know what you would get there or how much you would get there, but I will say that it's probably much easier to turn it's almost impossible to build a new nuclear power plant. So being able to turn one back on probably makes sense. I'm kind of curious what the proximity is, whether they're buying, in some cases, a lot of these data centers, what they're doing is they're saying, well, we're providing this into the grid. It doesn't matter that they're getting it. They're just saying that the power is paid for by them and it's clean power, and they get to count that.
I think that's how this works. It's going to get fed into the same grid, but Microsoft is saying,
it's like credits. It's like carbon.
So we're buying this much off of it.
Yeah.
So
we're putting this much
speaking,
yeah, and they do this a lot where they, in Texas they do this a lot where you're saying I'm buying green, and there are solar plants and wind plants and so on and so forth, but you're identifying what it is and you're paying a premium for that typically.
This is a company from Maryland called Constellation Energy. They own the facility, which suffered a partial meltdown in 1979. It was officially closed in 2019. They're going to rename it because the name 3 Mile Island, maybe with some people,
well, now it's 2 Mile Island, so they can.
No, they're going to call it
Microsoft Island.
In a masterful use of euphemisms, they're going to call it the Crane Clean Energy Center in honor of a former executive at the company. And I guess, I think you're right. I think it's Microsoft agreed to buy all the power generated probably as credits. Is Amazon did the same thing with Susquehanna nuclear power plant, also in Pennsylvania.
Well, and lots of people are doing that. The question is, in some cases, these data centers are built right next to the supply. So because there's actually an inefficiency of sending the power, through the lines. And so, some of these are, it's incredible numbers. These are like 18 megawatt, 35 megawatt,
this thing's centers. 835 megawatts.
Right. And they're going to suck up all of that. And the question is when you start talking about those numbers, sometimes it's more efficient, especially in that part of the state, to potentially build a data center right next to it, because then you're not transporting.
Constellation says it will produce as much clean energy as all the renewables built in Pennsylvania over the last 30 years. They also say it's safe. It's one of the safest plants out there. This plant was among the safest and most reliable nuclear plants on the grid before it was prematurely shuttered due to poor economics and maybe a brand problem. I don't know.
Look, nuclear power just does get a bad rap. It's just very visible once in a while kinds of incidents. But when you compare to the damage, as we were just talking about before, of long-term coal use into the atmosphere, it's not even a comparison. And you can build these things and get them to a place where they're.
But this is an old plant. Remember, this is not one of the newer, sodium-cooled plants that Bill Gates is behind. It's an old.
Well, most of the fission reactors are old because it's hard to make new ones.
Right. So if it was easier to make new ones, we'd have a whole bunch of
Well, Bill Gates is funding that
fusion.
Sodium.
It's still 20.
They're tiny. Yeah.
20 years away. It's
Well, this isn't that close either. It won't be back online at the earliest till 2028.
That's still super fast compared to all the other options.
Yeah. The plan also is dependent on federal government tax breaks for nuclear power in the Inflation Reduction Act. I agree with you. I mean, I think nuclear, it's a little scary because of the waste and so forth, but it is a cleaner form of energy than most of the other energy generated.
It's the chance
the
that
thing
the
that bothers me is it's for AI. It's not. It's not. This is kind of
the AI bus could be over by 2028.
Yeah, would you feel better or would you feel worse about it if it were for crypto mining, right?
Which is also happening. Actually, I would.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that this is maybe a less than necessary use of power, or maybe it isn't.
Well, I think that overall, I mean, there are a lot of concerns about AI, but overall, it's going to solve a lot of problems. Like, I mean, the ability to manage lots of data. I mean, there's definitely going to be big breakthroughs that happen because we're able to manage that data in that way. So I think that, I think that there's a lot of the electricity, the scare of nuclear is what could happen to the waste versus as was already outlined, what is happening with coal waste,
right.
and oil waste, like it's
right.
So what, and I think that, we're moving towards not only AI, but we're moving towards a largely electrical transportation economy. It's going up and down, but there's going to be some point 20 years from now that we don't buy cars that are burning up, fossil fuels. Like that's probably got maybe 20 more years before it's mostly gone. So that's still that's a huge draw on energy as well.
I'm a big supporter of EVs for that reason, but the power's got to come from somewhere.
Yep.
Hey, thank you for watching this little snippet from our big show, the News Roundtable, This Week in Tech. I'm Leo Laporte. Each week we cover the week's tech news, in-depth analysis, but it's also fun and engaging. You'll find it at twit.tv along with all of our shows. And if you want more, just hit the subscribe button, and we'll be sure to bring you a lot more great content. Thanks for listening.